Jesus lifted his head one final time and declared, "It is finished." And the sky went black. At midday, the sun disappeared, and darkness covered the land like a heavy shroud. People stumbled in fear, their voices hushed. Then the earth shook violently. Rocks split apart. The ground itself groaned under the weight of what had just taken place. At the temple, the great curtain, 60 feet high and as thick as a man's hand, it tore in two from top to bottom, ripped apart by an unseen force. The veil that for centuries had separated man from the holy presence of God was gone. Even the Roman centurion, the hardened soldier who had driven in the nails, he stood trembling at the foot of the cross. His voice cracked as he confessed, "Surely this was the Son of God." This was no ordinary death. Heaven and earth bore witness. And then, silence. The crowds melted away. The hill of execution grew still. Only a few women lingered in the distance, their sobs carried on the wind. Joseph of Arimathea, heart pounding with both courage and grief, went to Pilate and asked for the body. Permission was granted. He and Nicodemus climbed the hill, their hands trembling as they worked. They pried the nails free. The body of Jesus, broken and lifeless, lowered carefully into their arms. Blood streaked their robes and stained their hands as they carried him down. He was unrecognizable. The bruises, the blood, the torn flesh, the face that once looked upon crowds with compassion, now disfigured beyond human likeness. The weight of the cross had done its worst. And yet, even in that brokenness, there was something holy, as if love itself had been poured out and left there empty. They wrapped him in linen, winding strips of cloth around him with reverence, each layer soaked with tears. Spices of myrrh and aloes filled the air. The fragrance of death placed upon the one who had once called himself the life. In silence, they carried him into a nearby garden, into a new tomb carved from solid rock. The air inside was cool, still, and heavy. They laid him there, stepped back, and for a moment, the world felt unbearably empty. At the entrance, a massive stone stood ready, taller than a man and wider than a doorway. So heavy that it took several men straining with all their strength to roll it into place. The grinding echoed through the garden until it finally settled into its groove, sealing the darkness shut. Once the body was laid inside, the soldiers went to work. A thick cord was stretched across the face of the stone, and clay seals were pressed into each end. They were stamped with the mark of Rome. Pilate's authority, the empire's warning. No one would dare break it. The message was clear. Anyone who touched the stone defied Caesar himself. Then the guards took their positions, armed, disciplined, unshakable. 4 at a time they stood watch as others rested nearby. The torchlight flickered against their armor, the night air heavy with silence. To every human eye, this tomb was untouchable. The story was over. But on the third day, just as the sun broke the horizon, the ground trembled again. The night air split with power. An angel of the Lord descended blazing like lightning, his robe white as snow. The guards, trained, hardened, unshaken men, dropped where they stood, frozen in terror as the earth shook beneath them. Then came the sound, deep, grinding, stone against stone. That great rock which entombed the body of Jesus began to move. Dust spilled from the edges as the Roman seal snapped, and it rolled aside by the almighty hand of God. The trembling stopped. The air grew still. The tomb stood open, empty. When the women came to mourn, they expected silence, the stillness of death. Instead, the ground where their tears were meant to fall was flooded with light. The tomb stood open, and inside, angels waited. Their voices carried the sound of heaven itself. Why do you look for the living among the dead? He is not here. He is risen. Those words shattered despair forever. Hope was alive again. Hope walked out of that grave. The hands once pierced now shatter every chain. The voice once silenced now calls your name. The same power that raised him from death is the power that can raise you into life. Death could not hold him. Sin could not defeat him. The grave could not keep him. Jesus Christ is alive. Think about this. The Son of God took on every wound that belonged to you. He carried your shame, your guilt, your punishment, and he buried it in that tomb. But when he rose, your chains stayed behind in the grave. The darkness that covered the land that day, it was your darkness. The separation that he cried out under, it was your separation. And the victory that he walked out with is your victory now. This isn't just a story from 2,000 years ago. It's your story. The empty tomb is proof that sin doesn't have the last word. Death doesn't have the last word. Fear doesn't have the last word. Jesus Christ does. Because he lives, hope lives. Because he lives, grace is stronger than your past. Because he lives, you are never abandoned, never forgotten, never without a future. The tomb is empty. The King is risen. And the world, your world, will never be the same. Amen.